Have you ever felt invisible in a crowded room? That strange disconnect when you're surrounded by people, yet something essential is missing? In today's hyperconnected world where we're constantly bombarded with notifications and digital interactions, why is it that so many of us feel more alone than ever before? Look around you. We're texting instead of talking, scrolling instead of sharing, posting highlight reels while hiding our real struggles. This isn't just about being physically alone. This is about that deeper hunger for connection that likes and comments can never satisfy. I'm talking about loneliness, the silent epidemic that's reshaping our mental health, our relationships, and our very sense of self. Stay with me for the next 15 minutes. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand the hidden forces driving this modern crisis, but you'll discover practical ways to build the authentic connections your soul is craving. Loneliness isn't new to the human experience, but the way we experience it today is unlike anything before in history. Consider this paradox. We have more ways to connect than ever before, yet studies show loneliness has doubled in the last 50 years. In fact, before the pandemic, over 60% of Americans reported feeling lonely on a regular basis, and those numbers have only increased. But this isn't just about being physically alone. Modern loneliness is more complex. First, there's informational loneliness. We're drowning in content but starving for meaning. We scroll through carefully curated highlights of others' lives while sitting alone with our unfiltered reality. Then there's emotional loneliness, having plenty of casual connections but no one who truly knows your inner world. The difference between having drinking buddies and having someone you can call at 3 a.m. when your world is falling apart. Finally, there's existential loneliness, that sense that even those closest to you can't fully understand your unique experience of being human. As the philosopher Kierkegaard put it, "People understand me so poorly that they don't even understand my complaint about them not understanding me." What's most troubling is how we've normalized this disconnection. We've accepted shallow interactions as the standard. We've replaced conversation with consumption, and we've confused being constantly available with being genuinely present. The science behind loneliness reveals something surprising. Our brains process social pain in the same regions that process physical pain. This isn't metaphorical. Rejection and isolation trigger the same neural pathways as a broken bone. Evolutionarily, this makes perfect sense. For our ancestors, being separated from the tribe wasn't just uncomfortable, it was deadly. So our brains evolved to treat social disconnection as a threat to survival. Neurologically, prolonged loneliness activates our threat detection systems. Our brain goes into a state of hypervigilance, constantly scanning for social dangers. We become more suspicious, more sensitive to criticism, and more likely to interpret neutral interactions negatively. This creates a vicious cycle that researchers call loneliness loop. First, we feel lonely. Second, we become more self-protective and withdrawn. Third, others sense this guardedness and pull away. Fourth, we experience more rejection. Fifth, our loneliness deepens. The health consequences are staggering. Chronic loneliness increases inflammation throughout the body, suppresses immune function, and raises stress hormones. Research from Brigham Young University found that loneliness increases mortality risk by 26%, comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Perhaps most concerning is what loneliness researcher John Cacioppo discovered. Loneliness is contagious. When we're lonely, we interact differently with others, potentially triggering their own feelings of isolation. Like a virus, loneliness can spread through social networks, creating pockets of disconnection that reinforce themselves. Let me tell you about Maya. Maya had 2,347 friends on social media. Her posts regularly got hundreds of likes. Her DMs were always full. By every modern metric, she was well connected. Yet every night, she'd come home to her empty apartment, scroll through her phone for hours, and feel a hollowness she couldn't explain. Despite all those digital connections, she couldn't remember the last time she'd had a conversation that went beyond surface pleasantries. One evening, exhausted from pretending she was fine, Maya did something unusual. Instead of posting another carefully filtered photo, she shared a simple, honest post. Does anyone else feel lonely despite having hundreds of connections? Or is it just me? She hesitated before hitting post. Would people think she was pathetic? Attention-seeking? But something in her couldn't take another day of pretending. The response shocked her. Not just the volume, though her notification bell wouldn't stop chiming, but the depth. People she barely knew messaged her with their own stories of isolation. Acquaintances she'd only exchanged pleasant comments with for years suddenly shared their deepest fears. "I thought I was the only one," became the refrain. One message came from Sam, a college classmate she hadn't spoken to in years. "I live 3 blocks from you. Want to grab coffee? Like, in person?" Crazy concept, I know. That coffee turned into a 3-hour conversation, the kind where you lose track of time. They talked about their parents' divorces, their career doubts, the panic attacks they both secretly suffered. No filters, no perfect angles, no carefully crafted responses. Why haven't we done this before? Maya asked as they were leaving. Probably because it's terrifying, Sam replied. It's safer to keep things light, you know? But safer isn't always better. Over the next few months, Maya made a conscious choice to prioritize depth over breadth in her connections. She organized a small dinner party where phones were collected at the door. She started a book club that evolved into a space for honest conversation. She began calling friends instead of just liking their posts. None of this immediately filled the void. Building authentic connection takes time. Some people disappeared when she stopped engaging in superficial exchanges, but something was shifting. 6 months later, Maya found herself at another dinner with Sam and a few others from their growing circle. Looking around the table at these people who now knew her fears, flaws, and dreams, she realized something. She still felt lonely sometimes, that's part of being human, but she no longer felt alone. The story of Maya isn't just fiction. It represents what research has consistently shown. The antidote to loneliness isn't more connection, it's more meaningful connection. Philosophers have wrestled with loneliness throughout human history, offering perspectives that can help us make sense of our modern condition. Martin Buber distinguished between I-it relationships, where we treat others as objects to be used, and I-thou relationships, where we truly encounter another being in their fullness. Our digital culture excels at creating I-it connections, transactional, utilitarian, and ultimately unsatisfying. Existentialists like Sartre suggested that a certain kind of loneliness is inescapable, that we're fundamentally separate consciousnesses trying to bridge an uncrossable gap. Yet, even while acknowledging this fundamental aloneness, they emphasize that meaning comes from how we choose to reach across that gap. Hannah Arendt wrote about the importance of the common world, shared spaces where diverse people come together not just to consume, but to create meaning collectively. These spaces have been disappearing from our physical landscape and haven't been adequately replaced in our digital realms. Eastern philosophical traditions offer another perspective. Buddhism teaches that our sense of isolation stems partly from our misconception that we exist as separate, independent selves. The practice of compassion, truly seeing the suffering of others and responding with kindness, helps dissolve the barriers between self and other. What unites these diverse philosophical views is a recognition that meaningful connection requires something we're increasingly avoiding: vulnerability. Real connection demands that we reveal ourselves, risking rejection and judgment. It requires presence, being fully available to another person without the constant distraction of devices or the next notification. Philosopher Simone Weil captured this perfectly when she wrote, "Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity." In a world designed to capture and fragment our attention, giving someone our undivided presence is becoming both increasingly rare and increasingly precious. So how do we move from understanding loneliness to actually building deeper connections? Let me offer some practica. First, practice what psychologists call self-disclosure reciprocity. This means gradually sharing more personal information with others and creating safe spaces for them to do the same. Research shows that mutual vulnerability accelerates intimacy. Try asking questions that go beyond the surface. What's something you've changed your mind about recently? Or, when was the last time you felt truly proud of yourself? Second, create digital boundaries that serve your well-being. This doesn't mean abandoning technology, it means using it intentionally. Consider designating certain hours as phone-free, turning off non-essential notifications, practicing tech Sabbaths where you disconnect completely for a day, prioritizing real-time communication, calls, video chats over asynchronous exchanges. Texts, comments. Third, invest in third places, physical spaces beyond home and work where community naturally forms. This could be a regular table at a local cafe, a community garden, a recreational sports team, or a volunteer organization. The key is consistency. Showing up regularly enough that casual acquaintances have the chance to evolve into meaningful connections. Fourth, cultivate what researchers call active listening. This means fully focusing on understanding the other person rather than planning what you'll say next. Try this experiment. In your next conversation, commit to asking 3 follow-up questions before sharing your own experience. Fifth, recognize that meaningful connection doesn't always require words. Shared experiences, cooking together, hiking in nature, creating art, or even sitting in comfortable silence can create bonds that conversation alone cannot. Sixth, consider how you might contribute to others' sense of belonging. Research suggests that helping others overcome loneliness can strengthen our own social connections. This might mean introducing friends from different circles, organizing gatherings, or simply reaching out to someone who seems isolated. Finally, be patient with yourself and others. Deep connection can't be rushed or forced. It emerges gradually through consistent presence, genuine curiosity, and the courage to be imperfect together. Remember that the goal isn't to never feel lonely. Transient feelings of loneliness are part of being human. The goal is to build relationships resilient enough that loneliness becomes a visitor rather than a permanent resident. We stand at a crossroads. Technology has transformed how we connect, and there's no going back. But we can go forward more wisely. What if we approached our relationships with the same intentionality we bring to other important aspects of our lives? What if we measured our social wealth not by the number of our connections but by their depth? Throughout human history, we've faced challenges to connection, from plagues that forced physical separation to cultural shifts that disrupted community structures. Each time, we've adapted and found new ways to fulfill our fundamental need for belonging. This moment is no different. All around us, people are awakening to the limitations of digital-only connection and experimenting with new old ways of being together. Digital minimalists are creating tech-free gatherings, co-housing communities are redesigning physical spaces to encourage interaction, friendship apps are helping like-minded people find meaningful connections, vulnerability workshops are teaching the lost art of authentic sharing. These aren't just isolated trends, they're early signals of a broader cultural shift toward reclaiming our social nature in a digital age. The science offers hope too. Research shows that meaningful connection can be learned and strengthened like any other skill. Our neural pathways are remarkably plastic, capable of rewiring themselves when we practice new ways of relating. Studies find that even small increases in meaningful social interaction can significantly reduce feelings of loneliness. Most importantly, remember this: your loneliness is not a personal failing. It's a signal, an evolutionarily designed alert system telling you something important about your needs as a human being. Listen to it, honor it, let it guide you toward the connections your mind, body, and spirit are seeking. As we wrap up, I want to invite you to try one simple practice this week. Have one conversation where you share something slightly more personal than you normally would and ask a question that invites the other person to do the same. It might feel uncomfortable at first. That's normal. Real connection often begins at the edge of our comfort zones. If this video resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who might benefit. Sometimes the simple act of saying, "I've been thinking about this too," can be the beginning of a deeper connection. Drop a comment below about your own experiences with loneliness and connection. This community is a place where we can practice being seen and seeing others. And if you're interested in exploring this topic further, subscribe for more videos on the art and science of human connection in the digital age. Before you go, I want to share some final thoughts that I've found helpful in my own journey with loneliness and connection. First, remember that everyone, yes, everyone, experiences loneliness. Even that person who seems to have it all together. Even your most socially active friend. It's a universal human experience, not a reflection of your worth or likability. Second, building meaningful connection isn't about becoming more interesting or impressive. It's about becoming more interested and present. The quality of your attention often matters more than the content of your words. Third, beware of what psychologists call social comparison on social media. Those perfectly curated gatherings and intimate moments you see online? They're highlight reels, not documentaries. Don't let them become the standard against which you judge your own social life. Fourth, consider that some seasons of relative solitude can be valuable. They can be times of self-discovery, creativity, and preparation for deeper connections to come. The key is distinguishing between chosen solitude that serves your growth and involuntary isolation that diminishes you. Finally, know that it's never too late to begin. Connection isn't something you either have or don't have, it's something you practice and develop over time. Each authentic interaction, no matter how brief, is a step toward the richer social life you're seeking. Thank you for spending this time with me today. In a small way, we've shared a moment of connection through these words, and that's where all great connections begin, with one genuine moment of seeing and being seen.